Good afternoon. This is Jennifer Noreen with Beyond Brand Collective. I'm with Marie Pettie of Safe Harbor Property Management. Hello, Marie.
Hello.
How are you today?
I'm fine.
So we had some technical difficulties on the first attempt. It looks like we're good now. So I know we have been touching base weekly now. We're trying to do these go live weekly. And mostly we've been talking about COVID-19 and how it's been affecting your business and what you see going on in real estate and property management in general. I know your owner clients look to you as an expert and to kind of guide them through this crazy time. So today it sounds like you have some news on the moratorium that you wanted to share. So you want to go ahead and address your owner clients and let them know what you found out.
Sure. So by now, everyone knows the basic premise for the moratorium as far as no notices for eviction or 10 days. A 10-day is also the start of an eviction. That's why no 10 days notices to comply are allowed to be served. And the only way to collect on the rent that's not being paid at this point is to offer a reasonable payment plan to make it collectible. And of course, Safe Harbor has been contacting every single person that's late. They have received their payment plan, their personal payment plan. So this moratorium, of course, is set to expire on 10/15/2020, but likely I'm hearing that it's likely to be extended.
Mm-hmm.
The exception to it, just to go over that right quick, because I noticed that a lot of owners and persons that are wanting to sell don't know this piece. So I want to let my landlords and clients know that the exception to this is if they want to sell, or if the owner wants to move in, or an apartment manager wants to move into a unit.
Oh, wow. Okay, so then they're allowed to pursue the rent in a different way?
Correct. They're able to serve the 60-day notice to vacate due to the fact that the owner wants to sell or the owner wants to move in. So they're able to do that. Also, as part of the moratorium, there is a health and safety piece where if the health and safety issue is a significant threat, illegal activity, increasingly dangerous activity, it can't be something like, just an unauthorized person has moved in, or, something that's light, because the courts don't want to see, people homeless. So it has to be a significant threat to them. Also, what was interesting is not following COVID guidelines. And usually this is applying to shared housing situations. Of course, that would be like a dangerous threat if someone is not following the guidelines in a shared housing situation.
So I was going to ask you that. So if they have COVID in the house and they're not protecting the other household members, that's a violation, and you can ask them to leave the property?
And that's only in a shared housing situation, not family members or things like that, but it's a shared housing where there's different doors or different apartments in a locked, which would be considered like a shared housing situation.
All right. Okay.
So, that was kind of a caveat there. And then it must be a month-to-month tenant. If a tenant is in the middle of a lease, then that lease has to be honored. And then also what I learned, and I learned all this through a panel discussion with the Tacoma Housing Authority, and they had two legal representatives. They had a legal representative for the resident, and they had a legal representative for the owner. And they also had some other resource mediation people that are coming on board to help mitigate this COVID situation. So what the attorney brought out is that a new pilot program is coming, into effect after the moratorium is lifted and before a 14-day notice is served. So what's going to come into effect is that if the tenant
I'm gonna stop you there. So can you repeat what you just said? In
I
between.
said there's a new pilot program that's coming out through the state that will come into effect after the moratorium is lifted and before the 14-day notice is served.
Okay.
So this pilot program is going to help hopefully mitigate and get some, the premise of it is to help mitigate and communicate between landlord and tenant and get some rents paid. So,
Sure.
yeah. So, and then I, have resources for those agencies that are working with that. If anyone is interested in knowing who those resources are, I can email those out to them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So what is the pilot program?
That's what they've called it. It's just a pilot program that's going to come out after the moratorium is lifted and is coming through the state.
And is it mechanisms and things where they're going to be meeting with residents to help them pay their rent, or some kind of
to help mediate between landlord and resident?
Yeah, so in my research on this, it really seems that if you're struggling to pay your rent and you live in Washington State, there's help available either through your landlord or through a community resource, or your landlord can hook you up with a community resource, or look on the web. I mean, there's a lot of ways to get help to pay your rent in this state. We have a very generous population here, and which is encouraging to me, right? It's unfortunate that some people are putting off paying their rent because they can.
Right.
It's not that they're never going to have to pay their rent. It's that they eventually will have to pay their rent, which to me is kind of creating stress. For some people, it's real stress. They don't have a job. They've lost their job due to COVID or whatever, and that's real. But some people who are not paying their rent just because they can put it off, they're really just creating more stress for themselves. So definitely on the renter-resident side, you want to call your landlord or use the resources Marie can send out to you.
I want to emphasize during this time period, landlords, at least my colleagues and landlords, do want to reach out and help during this time period. So please don't be afraid to call and, let's work something out. And I wanted to mention one other new thing that came out during this panel discussion is that the CDC also has a moratorium that they've set up separate from the state moratorium. And that one covers single persons that have income less than $99,000 and couples that with income less than $198,000. So, and that moratorium itself is set to expire on December 31st, 2020. So,
wow.
Yeah. So go ahead.
So if the state of Washington is not limiting things, the CDC is limiting things, that if you don't make more than those amounts, you don't have to pay your rent. Is that what you're saying?
Oh, no, they are emphasizing pay your rent, but they are saying that they have just put a moratorium on rent. That does not mean that you don't pay your rent.
So moratorium, which is a familiar word for you, but not so much me and maybe some of the viewers. So moratorium meaning you're allowed to pause. Moratorium does not mean your obligation to pay rent under your lease agreement is gone away. It just means it's a pause, but will be picked up later, and you still have that financial obligation, right?
Correct.
Okay. And you're saying that the state of Washington, so Governor Inslee's making decisions around rent moratoriums, but also the CDC on a national level. So you're saying that there's a national CDC thing going on as well?
Yes. Yes.
And it's a moratorium, not a you don't ever have to pay this, but it's you can pause until. So is that balance? If I'm in a community and I'm not paying my rent right now, is that balance stacking up against me in my file? And you have
at this point, yes, we all have accounting systems, and the rent is being, and then we're sending out payment plans for each month that the rent is not being paid.
Right. And by that you mean the rent amount broken into 2 or 3 payments, or
whatever is comfortable for the resident.
Got you. Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And if you don't hear from them, you're contacting them to say, hey,
we contact them regardless. It's like, policy to reach out and send them a payment plan.
Got you. Okay. What else can you tell us about this moratorium? Why is it that you know that after October 15th it's going to be extended? Is that just sort of the feeling?
I don't know. I don't know that. It's just, that's what I'm hearing. So we have to wait and see October 15th what Governor Inslee has to say about the state of Washington.
Yeah. Okay. So he'll be publishing that. But then even if that is or isn't extended, you're saying CDC has one in place till the end of December anyway. So national or federal wise, they still have the right to not pay their rent until January 1.
It's not a right to not pay their rent. It's a pause. They don't have a right to not pay their rent. They are emphasizing pay their rent.
Okay, got you. So it's not relieving you from your legal contract with your landlord. It's not relieving you from your lease obligation. It's just rearranging how you pay it, really.
Right.
Sounds like.
At this point, that's how it is. Yes.
Yeah. So how is your business sitting during this time, Marie? Are you guys, has it been the struggle that you expected it to be, or is it better than you thought, or kind of how has it been?
Initially, of course, we had, a few people that were not paying. Going forward, we have a few more people that are not paying. But like I mentioned before, we're always reaching out to them and communicating to them and letting them know that it's an open door policy and they can come and talk and make arrangements for their rent.
Yep.
And
so it's a really good reason for landlords to have good communication with their residents, right? Because when you run into things like this, it's nice to have the relationship in place as opposed to having to, oh, whoops, I need to catch up and actually know these people's names. And, I have a sense, I know that your values are to have good communication throughout the relationship with your residents. And have you been holding formal communications with your owners on this, or how are they? Are you just hoping they're listening to this, or how else are you going to be communicating the information? I can give you some ideas, but
I'm in contact with my owners too. They email me on a regular basis. They have my direct phone number. They can call me at any time. They know that, and email me, and I will respond. So we have an open dialogue with the owners.
Yeah. Okay. And that's what I would have expected, that there's some informal communications going on. And we will post the rent resource information up on the website. So safeharborrents.com by Monday. So, and they can also sound like they can call you and get that from you over the phone or in an email. They could submit a contact us form on the website and get a hold of you that way as well. So is there anything else you want to share about the news you got?
I just want to, the next live that we do, I just want to talk about a program. It's quite extensive that's going on in Pierce County. It's called Free 253. And so I want to delineate what that is, as far as it's called Free 253 program and how that's helping mitigate the COVID situation. Okay.
And so we'll announce that time and date on Facebook and YouTube here in the next couple days. So, well, thanks, Marie. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Thanks for the good information, and I hope this was helpful. If you're an owner or a resident and you have questions about any of this information that's been shared, please leave a comment on this post, and we'll be sure to get back with you. You can also email Marie at safeharborrents@gmail.com or visit safeharborrents.com. I'm going to run your little banner here since we're so fancy. So thanks again, Marie. Take care, and we'll talk to you next week.
Okay. Bye-bye.